Hello and welcome to the PC Gamer Podcast. My name is Chris Thurston, and today I am joined by Tom Francis.
Hello.
Who kind of works here.
Yep.
And Marsh Davies, who no longer works here,
That's
but
true.
is our friend.
Thanks.
I work here in the sense that I do not come in to work or do any work.
Yeah.
Or get paid, in fact. I'm on sabbatical.
If you listen to this podcast and you're not aware, which is kind of, there's only a small amount of people in that Venn diagram, but Tom released his game this week.
Yep.
His game, Gunpoint, which is on Steam now. We'll almost certainly be talking about this episode because it's all I've been playing. It's Dota. So yeah, Dota ban versus not talking about Tom's game ban will fight each other later on. The question I was going to ask, just frivolously off the top of the head, is what is your... It's really nice now outside, like for once. Like it's beautiful. It's hot in here. What is your favorite thing to do in the summer that you can only do in the summer?
Continue to stay in my bedroom playing games or making games, but with the window open and sunlight coming in and fresh air.
Oh, my answer was going to be similar. Feel guilty that I'm not outside.
Right.
So
I don't really. I know I'm meant to be, and I know there are other things doing, but I'm like, there's like fresh air is on my face, the sun is on my skin. What am I losing by staying indoors? Like, is it like just the grass? Do I have to be close to plants for this to be worthwhile? Because what I do is, if I'm going outside, I'm like, okay, I'll bring my laptop, but now I can't really see the laptop screen, and then laptop's not that great for a lot of browsing tasks, and certainly can't make games on it yet. So then I'm just thinking, well, like, what do I do outside? I like being outside, but I usually end up feeling it was a waste of time.
you can suffer from allergies. You can't do that indoors, can you?
I
heard the other day, apparently the third world doesn't suffer from allergies as much as the Western world does. Apparently, there's a strong correlation, possibly causation, between the infection of hookworm and not suffering from allergies. It's like a parasite that's evolved alongside
Let's get it
human
imported!
filth. So actually, by becoming more clean, as Western society has, and having higher hygiene standards, we've actually fucked over.
Can't we ever catch a break?
Yeah, I know,
We're in the
seriously.
first world.
Symbiotic
if I was
parasite.
like, we've got, we don't have to worry about where we're going to, how much we're going to eat, or where we're going to sleep, or shelter, or war, or almost anything. But if we're going to get some fucking hookworms,
Well, there's some serious allergy sufferers probably going out to the third world, travelling around, walking barefoot through latrines and things like that to infect themselves, come back and not
are
suffer.
there?
Yes, yeah, I listened to a programme about it on the radio, which is always true.
But no, I mean, I can imagine. No, I believe you about the hookworm thing, but I don't believe you about the people going there to get hookworms.
Yeah, that was
What?
that was a guy doing it.
How bad? I go to Boots and buy antihistamine tablets.
Well, maybe you should invest in some hookworm. You would. There might be a lower spend overall.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that my favorite thing to do outside in this weather is fall asleep.
Yeah.
So, like, I do like falling asleep outside. It's a good feeling.
I don't like falling asleep at all times of year.
Yeah.
Also been fairly busy
Good
the
night,
last few
Reece.
weeks when it's been nice, but around 4 p.m. the sun is coming through my window, so it's on my bed. And
As if
so I have
suggesting-
like a 4 p.m. ritual of just getting a beer and lying in the sun for a while and just doing nothing, thinking about nothing.
Yeah. I am the
taking a
huge
break.
proponent of the afternoon nap. Massive. I would siesta if I had the chance. Right now, actually, frankly. We've had this conversation before.
Actually,
but I guess
if I can revise my answer, I really love cycling from my house into town in a t-shirt. Like, without even bringing in a jacket or any kind of backup plan. When the weather's that nice that you just kind of think it can't get bad.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is rare in England. But as suddenly you feel like just this load has lifted and the whole of life is just this wonderful like playground where...
Yeah. I like being able to leave work and then go and sit in a beer garden. That's, it's still light enough to actually have a view or...
Yep.
Anyway, inside this
Summertime is good.
podcast studio, watching thin beams of light come through the one window high up on the wall. Marty, you said you had a question for the floor.
Oh yeah, do you want to do two frivolous non-game
Let's
related
go
questions?
for
It's
it.
kind of game
Look,
related.
I'm
The audience is
pretty
screaming
much
out,
the only person in this room who still works here, so I make the rules.
In the RPG of your life,
Yeah.
you've just rolled a Tom Francis if you're Tom Francis. You just rolled a Chris Thurston.
I've just
if you're
rolled a
Chris
Tom
Thurston.
Francis.
Well, you've rolled a Chris Thurston. Tom's rolled a Tom Francis.
Okay.
What is your dump stat?
Oh, like, where do you just, like, what do you max out first?
What stat do you ditch so you can use those experience points for all the other
Oh, all the other
things in
stats.
your yeah.
Charisma.
Oh,
Strength.
sad answers. In fact, that was only really going to be a downer. Question,
Oh, that's
Well,
a good
like-
thing, so we've got to say...
But, like, okay, so what, I am naturally, as a you, a halfling.
Yeah.
So, so
That doesn't provide us with really any kind of cool abilities.
No, yeah, you
no
can
lower
Maybe
magicka.
smithing?
we get higher agility and maybe natural bonuses to stealth.
I really do not have higher abilities at either of those.
You can draw. That requires agility.
That's never occurred in an RPG before.
Okay.
Nobody's got down to the climactic battle
You know,
against
many
the
peop-
archdemon.
like-
You can draw a quick sketch of him.
People have drawn, fantasy has drawn a lot from Tolkien, but the one thing it's always forgot to draw from Tolkien is that ultimately it's the hobbits that are essential and win everything. And you can't do anything without a hobbit. And that thought has buoyed me up in these dark times of considering myself useless in a fantasy context. Tom, I would argue, is more of an elf.
Thanks, I guess.
Aloof, tallish, pointy ears,
Do I?
high bone structure.
What are there is some useless stats, isn't there? Like, is there perception? Can I ditch some perception stuff? I don't need to perceive things. Is this what we'd like to have, or just what would be a true representation
Also, actually-
of our...
I mean, you've got a QA team now, so you don't need perception at all. That's what it's for.
Our QA team is largely people who paid for the game, so they're not the best front line of defense.
But actually, to stress, we're in an RPG, but are the things we want to achieve the things we want to achieve in our own life, or are we in like a fantasy world playing ourselves?
No, things are in your own life. That was the
Then
premise
ditch
of it.
strength. I usually have to ask for help lifting things as it is, so...
And one day you will get some kind of horrible spider body that you'll insert your brain into, and strength will become relevant.
Which RPG is this?
Yeah, I did put a lot of points into charisma.
No, this is real life.
Oh yeah, what?
Eventually.
What have you been doing since you left? Meanwhile,
Phase 2.
in Marsh's graveyard, working on his spider mech new form. They'll take me seriously now.
And
Staring into the
ironically, you haven't. So,
pub. Yeah.
should we talk about games?
Yeah, okay, quite. Let's. Tom, have you been playing anything? I'm going to rephrase our traditional question.
Actually, yes. Gunpoint. No, beyond Gunpoint. What I've been doing is, so I need, typically if you spend like a day making stuff on a game, it's quite high intensity in terms of loads of things to think about. You got to really focus. And it's quite difficult and quite exhausting. And so the kind of games I usually play, like Deus Ex and stuff, are not that, or Supreme Commander, are not that well suited to unwinding after a day of that, because they're also high intensity and lots of things to think about. So instead I play Batman Arkham City. The challenge maps in that, I've lost all my saves because Games for Windows Live, but I reinstalled it and I'm just playing as Catwoman in the challenge maps. And the flow of the combat in the game is just so endlessly satisfying. It just feels so good. The challenge is just perfect for me. It's like, depends on the map actually, but for the ones when there's just some knife dudes and some armored dudes and some regular dudes, the pattern of like jumping around that crowd and just timing all of your dodges and things so that you never break your combo but you also never get stabbed is really, really satisfying. And then the scoring system is really good too. So like the rewards for doing it all perfectly are so high that you're just desperate to do it perfectly. And when you screw it up just that once, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, those games are absolutely amazing for making you want to play well rather than simply beat the challenge being put in front of you. I haven't actually played is it still Games for Windows Live?
Yes.
Okay, because they've the Game of the Year edition or whatever is on Steam at the moment, real cheap.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I've got that. I might have.
But nonetheless, I was wondering if they'd done the good, the honourable thing and stripped it out. Are you tempted to return to actually replay any of the single player stuff again, or is that kind of done for you?
I did because you have to unlock challenge maps.
Oh right, yeah.
I thought I could earn them just by doing challenge maps, but you can't. You have to actually progress in the story as well. And then, interestingly, I was thinking, like, I came back to it, and I was really struggling to get through a single challenge without taking damage. And I remember being able to do that pretty well before. And then, as I progressed in the single player, I realised that the upgrades you unlock for your single player character apply to all characters in all modes. So things like you can do combos every 3 moves instead of every 7 moves, and you can get critical strikes that if you don't do any combos, then you start to move faster and you can dodge further. And so when you're chaining a combo, if you press attack and the nearest guy is like 15 meters away, you'll just leap to him, and so it's easy to chain things together. And so actually now it's much, much easier.
Yeah, a lot of games have tried to ape that combat system, and none of them have quite done it right.
I mean, actually, like the sort of core of it is really just 2 buttons. There's just attack and counter, and if no one's about to hit you, then attacking is better. You get slightly more points for that, and it's you get to decide who you hit, and you can kind of so the challenge in like how long can I just attack without countering, because if you anticipate people's moves and hit them before they even start their attack, you don't need to counter. So there's you can just keep doing that. But inevitably, in a big crowd, like there'll be several people coming for you at once, and there's no way to hit them all without countering. So you're just constantly making that decision, like hit or counter, hit or counter. Can I get away with hitting, or do I have to counter? And that on itself, I think, would make a great combat system. But then also there's like special takedowns and dodges, and with the Catwoman you use a whip or caltrops and things.
How do they work? Because I remember in the original game, I can't remember if you played as Catwoman for an extended period in the original game.
She wasn't in in Arkham Asylum.
No, I meant in Arkham City. Sorry, was Catwoman added as DLC?
No, she was DLC, but she was like, if you bought the game, you got it for free. Kind of type
okay.
deal.
I must have played it then, but I can't remember because obviously Batman can dazzle dudes with his cape. So what's the
Look at my fabulous cape?
Yes.
Just a cape.
So what does Catwoman do?
She uses a whip for the same thing, just stun a bunch of dudes. That's not that useful, but she can disarm people with a whip, so she can like snatch their weapon with it. And she can do some kind of like twirly thing where she trips up a bunch of people all at once, but that's not that useful because then there's just less people on their feet, and you kind of need people on your feet to keep the combo going. And then the only special move I actually use is just the takedown one, which is what you actually do completely varies on the situation. So there's loads of different ones, and they're all really cool and just beautifully animated. It's like a fight scene with perfect choreography, only it's completely interactive and just adapts to whatever situation you're in. And Catwoman in particular, there's something really satisfying about the way she plays because it's all about agility and kind of trapping people in a way. Like all of her takedowns involve kind of snaking herself around someone and then suddenly snapping them. And it's so horribly brutal, but also really cool. And it's just brilliant that her style is completely different to Batman's, but also both of them work really well in the fighting system, and both of them feel really... If you play them well, you feel like a proper expert. The only thing I really miss from playing as Batman is that he has a move where he can just break shit. So he doesn't kill the person, he kills the weapon. And that's actually more useful. If there's like a stun gun or something, that's a really big deal and you need to get rid of that. And if you just kill the person, then someone else can pick it up and use it. But with like a shield, people use car doors as shields, and the way Batman breaks it is he just punches through the window at the car door and then grabs the car door and then just bends it into a little heap and then drops it. And every one of them is, I don't know, it's actually more satisfying to break things than it is to hurt people. Like just grabbing a lead pipe and just twisting it up and throwing it away, or like snapping a gun.
The animation of him like unloading and dismantling a gun in like one smooth move is really cool because he doesn't actually just break it. He actually like dismantles it and takes the clip out and empties it and drops it in one motion. It's like the most Batman-y thing. Oh man, there's a guy in the comments for the podcast a few weeks ago even who had a go at me for having an obsession with Batman. So I'm actually kind of like holding back my tongue quite a lot because I don't want to play to that guy's perceived sense of.
First Hobbit to play Batman.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be shilling for Batman because it's the only thing above me in the Steam charts right now.
Why
Don't buy Batman Arkham Asylum.
Why
it's
is
terrible.
that? I was going to say, other than the fact that Batman's a good game, but I mean, is it being released as
Well, don't make me say it, but it's really, really cheap.
Arkham City's like a $5 with all the DLC.
Okay.
It's frankly a brilliant deal.
I think I reviewed it for you guys, actually, but it's a long time ago now.
Yeah. I mean, the more I think about this game, I'm actually thinking about playing it again because I don't think anyone's actually made a better character action game.
It's really good.
But like, as you know, we've been sort of working away on the latest top PC Gamer Top 100, and that was one of those modern games that was really tough to excise from the list of my personal votes.
I think it's in my top 10.
Yeah, like because I couldn't, in the end it was like there's enough games on the PC over the entirety of the history of the platform that nudged it out. But I think the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City games have this real stab at being properly great.
Yeah, for me it's like I think I included it just because there's. It fills a slot that no other game does for me. Like even I love Spelunky and I love playing that as a sort of break game, but it's not quite as just instant satisfaction as the fighting in Arkham City. So since it like fills a role in my life that continues to be important and fun for me, I felt like it was worthy.
Yeah.
Are you into any other kind of combo brawlers, or is that the
no? And that's kind of why another reason why it's sort of special is that usually when people talk the way I talk about Arkham City, when I try the game, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's just super frustrating. And I just I find like the control is the challenge, and I find it really awkward to understand. And there's kind of a heritage of those games that I'm not that familiar with, so I think it's hard to get into. But because Arkham Asylum and Arkham City are both so like just beautifully fluidly animated, and the system is so so slick and it just looks so cool. Like if you just do one fight well, you're sold on it. It's like, oh my god, what I just did was so badass. I hate. There's kind of a convention of those games where usually you're doing sort of a big flashy attack animation, and then everyone who's hit by it kind of freezes in place and they flash white, and then they go oh, and it's all very abstract and kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess abstracted,
stylized.
Word for like crude simplification of something, maybe abstract. Anyway,
dumbed down.
I mean, mechanically they're probably more complex and more interesting than Arkham City, but just because it's not convincing to me, I don't find it satisfying because I'm just seeing a flashy thing that makes people flash and then they fall over.
I don't like. I tried playing Revengeance, which came out on. Hasn't come out on PC. I don't think it's ever going to. But it's one of those games, along with many of these kind of combo brawlers, where you kind of hack at things and you slash them, and they don't fall to pieces immediately. Although, actually, Revengeance does have a separate mechanic where you can slice things to pieces. But there's just no sense of connection. Whereas in Batman, like you actually see his fist hit somebody's face and
that's
their
exactly
head
it.
spins off, basically.
And yet, ironically, in theory, you're never killing people.
Hard to believe. Just horribly.
I mean, they'll all die of their wounds in hospital. There's no doubt about it.
Have you seen that? I think it's a College Humor video of Patton Oswalt, which is just a piss take on Nolan Batman things, where just Batman just assumes he hasn't killed anyone, but he's an idiot. Like the idea of like you just punch that guy's esophagus in, like he's dead now, like he's died. Like no, he's sleeping. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's really good. I mean, Devil May Cry, I thought new one did a decent job of selling the impact of blows and things, despite being a very technical brawler compared to the Arkham City games. But it is very flashy, and the stuff you're doing is kind of ridiculous. It's not as kind of, I'm just going to say, relatable as Batman, as if magic boomerangs are a thing. But like, even though you're hitting people with magic weapons and demon fists that you summon out of nowhere, the sound design does so much to kind of sell you on what you're actually doing. And that's one thing Arkham City gets really right as well, is the sound. Yeah. The sound cues are so good for exactly what's happening. And
when someone gets knocked out, it's got a special kind of noise. That's really satisfying.
Yeah, because when the human body loses consciousness,
you hear it explode out of the ears.
There's a small sonic boom every time that happens.
Also, you get red trails on your fists when you're getting critical hits. Like when you're timing it perfectly, then you get like this kind of momentum thing. And then as you get I was talking about the kind of agility bonuses you get once you get a string of those, that you're leaping across the arena like ridiculously. But also the rest of the world kind of goes a bit blurry, and you get kind of motion blur on what you're doing, and so it becomes almost like a trance state. And that's also what you're feeling as a player, because you're in this perfect flow state of you're pressing buttons at exactly the right time, and you're reacting faster than you normally can because you're so ready for what it's throwing at you.
Yeah, good action games should always feel like you're doing really well in Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Like, just what's coming next, and you can kind of like sense it even though you don't know. Like, that's a really good feeling. Man, those games are great, and beating you on Steam.
Hey.
Marty.
Hello.
A fourth person's into the podcast. That's right.
Wee little Marty Davies.
Hi.
What have you been playing?
I've been playing the second best puzzle platformer to be released in the last couple of weeks. I've also been playing the best puzzle platformer, which is obviously Gunpoint. But I've been playing
just passed Martin some money under the That's a rare example of games journalism in action.
I'm not a game journalist anymore. I can be as corrupt as I want.
Private contractor.
I've been playing The Swapper, which is
that's great.
2D. Yeah, it's really good. 2D puzzle platformer set on some kind of space station. It's got a really weird art style. I don't know how they've done it. It looks like they've made everything in clay, and then photographed it, and then turned it into a 3D asset and done a fuckload of normal mapping on it. So even though everything is kind of staged 2D, so you get kind of layered scenes essentially. When you turn your torch on and shine it at the environment, it looks really kind of super detailed and three-dimensional, but weird, soft and squidgy, unlike space stations usually are.
It's got a great mood to it, because the place is deserted and it's all spooky anyway, but also just the main mechanic of the game is incredibly sinister.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's a game. It kind of uses a similar kind of cloning mechanic to Cloning Clyde, I think, was one of them, and there was I forget the names. There was a spate of puzzle platformers post Braid which used the cloning mechanic.
PB Winterbottom kind of.
PB Winterbottom, yes, and Gateways also has a similar thing, which I've talked about on the podcast before, which is a great puzzle platformer by Smudge Cat Games. But in this one, you can kind of place 4 clones of yourself by line of sight. So you've got this gun, you kind of stick it out in front of you.
It fires you.
And it kind of projects like a silhouette to your mouse point, line of sight. And then you can drop it. And then as soon as you've created this other clone, both of you move at the same time with
So
the
your
same...
controls go for both.
Right.
Yes, yeah. But you're still embedded in one of them as a kind of spirit.
Yeah.
So you can then jump between these bodies, and only the one that has your spirit can fire the gun to create new clones of yourself. So you end up getting all of the puzzles in the game are pressure plate puzzles essentially, but they get so complicated. But even just the basic navigation in the environment involves cloning yourself. So you do this massive leap. And you'll clone yourself, so your clone can reach the ledge that's ahead of you. You spirit jump to the clone and watch your other clone fall and crumple to a heap in the ground. And just like every room, basically, you kill like 4 versions of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing that like they solved the philosophical conundrum of, if perfect replication was possible, where would your soul be? With, it's in the original, but you can fire it in a gun.
Yeah.
You have a gun that fires consciousness, so, just shoot the other
Yeah.
one and then it's in that one.
Yeah.
It's a bit. Yeah.
Does it tap into there's a bunch of sci-fi movies I could spoil by
really,
explaining the...
No, it totally does. So it's really indebted to things like and
I'll beep that, because if you know that, then it spoils it.
Oh, well...
It's fine, I'm going to beep it, so it's okay. I'll beep the name of the films.
I will. In my defence, I shall say that the first film I mentioned, to save you beeping twice, doesn't involve cloning at all, but it's about the kind of the atmosphere and the philosophical problems of where the spirit resides is present in that film, as it is in the second film. But it didn't occur to me that there's mechanical details there as well. Which
Okay. No, I'll beep the other film.
Yeah. It's got a great mood. Really nice. It's a bit contrived. It does have quite a complicated plot to explain this stuff, which is quite well thought out. But at the end of the day, it's the puzzles. I mean, the puzzles involve kind of different coloured lights that prevent you from using your gun in certain areas. So there's obviously contrivance there, but it's a very gamey game, but it has this very nice atmosphere appended to it.
Lovely.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
What have you been playing, Chris?
Well, I've been playing Dota 2, which is the game I play. I've also been playing Gunpoint, a game by Tom Francis, who's over there, which is sort of weird. Actually, before we came here to record this podcast, we recorded a sort of a video of me playing it with some commentary, which will hopefully be going up.
Commentary of Tom?
Me and Tom just talking about the game while I play it.
Basically, Chris getting shot a lot and me saying slightly before he gets shot, I think you're going to get shot there.
Yeah. Developer of game tells me I'm bad at game while I'm playing the game. But no, I actually finished Gunpoint today, sort of a couple of sessions, and this is so weird. This is a weird conversation.
What do you say? Looking at if you say it's bad, you'll offend me. If you say it's good, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's all right.
No,
I really like it. Should we really talk about it critically in front of Tom? That is just too strange, isn't it?
It is maybe too weird, yeah. Well, we can talk about...
It has one of the best grammar-based jokes.
Yes. Oh, man, that was great. There's... God, it is weird praising Tom for that.
This whole week and a bit since pre-orders opened and people have been playing it has just been one long series of finally getting recognition for things I thought might be cool 2.5 years ago, and thought no one will ever notice this.
Yeah,
and then one day someone mentions the grammar joke, and then one day someone mentions this joke if you punched it someone too many times, or someone mentions the thing in the ending, or
yeah.
Ironically, the one thing that I think everybody who tested the game prior to launch mentioned wasn't in the final game.
It was the demo ending, right?
No, the thing.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. So there's two things. In fact, these are the two things I've had the most praise for in the entire course of Gunpoint's development. One is if you punch someone a bunch of times, you start to get messages about it. And in the last minute, a small thing I did to make guard behavior more consistent meant that message never appeared in the final game. And the only reason I ever found out that it was missing was just that nobody was mentioning it. And in test, everybody mentioned it. It was the number one thing that got mentioned. There's even a whole commentary thing in the developer commentary of the game where I talk about trying to understand why people like that so much and what it taught me about, how to add other little touches like that. And it's just not in the game. But I put it in the first patch yesterday. But then the thing I got most praise for when the demo came out was, because it didn't have the punching thing in, I didn't know it didn't have that in it, was the fourth wall breaking ending where I basically cajole you into buying the game. Like, I did the worst thing you could ever do, really. I broke the fourth wall, destroyed immersion, betrayed one of my characters. One of my characters breaks character to tell you to buy the game, basically. And then all of your options turn into the words buy the game, and it's just saying buy the game. And people fucking loved it. Just endless stream of praise on Twitter. Like, oh, what a brilliant ending. And
if you're listening
so
to this,
people...
you should know that we haven't, like, tricked Tom into having this recorded. He's saying this directly into a microphone. We should probably explain briefly what Gunpoint is. I keep saying this today, apparently. But it's, as Marsh introduced earlier, a puzzle platformer with a sort of a lot of stealth game influences, whose principal mechanic is rewiring levels so that light switches open doors and doors knock people out and lift buttons open, make people's guns fire and blah, 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 add infinitum. What I was going to say in terms of my own interaction with it is, I think... definitely in terms of my relationship with Dishonored and a bunch of other games like this, or my relationship with games like this, and including the reason why I'd never gone with Hitman, actually, which is probably the main difference. Like, I just never cracked Blood Money, despite knowing how much of an influence it's been on your thoughts about games, Tom, is I like doing things perfectly. Like, I like getting everything absolutely right. And, like, Gunpoint has the reload mechanic where if you get shot and die, you can restart the entire level or any sort of number of checkpoints back a couple of seconds in intervals.
Yeah, it's like 5, 10, and 15 seconds back.
Yeah, I imagine you would know that. But like, I never did. It was always restart entire level,
Really?
do it right. There was only one exception to that, and it was a puzzle that I was solving because I had to wait for guards to pass motion detectors, and so the amount of waiting involved if I fucked it up was kind of more than I was in that case. But like, because of that, I think it took me way longer to complete than most, simply because I was kind of like, I'm going to do everything right, I'm going to do it 100%, and no one's going to see me, and I like not even having to hit anyone and doing those solutions to problems. And with that, like, I am actually still finding the amount of stuff I've got left to do in terms of to do it, like, and also to beat the Tom Francis time on every level, quite daunting, actually, because like,
yeah, I've decided I'm never going to be able to get that achievement.
I got it this lunchtime.
Really?
Yeah.
This is the achievement called I am better than Tom Francis, which is if you beat a level faster than I ever have.
I actually, I don't know if I'll end up in the final video because we lost a little bit of footage, but I showed Tom afterwards how I'd done a level, because it's just, you can skip a bit if you are an asshole. But yeah, it was really, that's kind of, like you were saying about Arkham City, actually, that's the kind of thing that adds longevity to games for me. It's not length. It's not like a lot of this, because I've been thinking about it, because I voyeuristically went and looked at your Steam forums and every review has mentioned game length as a all the reviews have been positive that I've seen, but like nonetheless people do mention game length. But it's really interesting to me that people see length purely in terms of content, right? Not in terms of the repeatability of that content, or simply how fun it is to repeat that content, because obviously all content is repeatable, but like just like how much of a draw do you feel to go back and do this better? And with Gunpoint, I definitely felt I had this huge draw to keep going back and like, I can do that better, and that was sloppy, or I fell out that window kind of weirdly.
Yeah, that really came about with the rating system. Until I had that in there, like even I didn't really have any particular. I could do it a different way, but I just I wasn't motivated to do it until I added little bars for how many people saw you, how many people did you hurt, how much noise did you make, how quickly did you do it, and then suddenly it becomes a lot more interesting to not to like optimize your performance necessarily. I mean, game implies that probably stealthy is better than noisy, and that non-violent is better than violent, and that fast is better than slow, but it never actually judges you on that. You never get any more money for doing it that way. Clients sometimes ask you to use less violence or to find laptops and stuff, but no one ever asks you to do anything quickly. And in fact, the rating for getting a really, really long time is a compliment rather than a criticism. Yeah. So it's just purely self-motivated. It's just like, what kind of ratings do you want to get? And there's like a special word for getting 0 on each different thing. And if you get 0 on all 4... what is it? Perfect Gentleman Ghost Ninja.
Ghost Ninja. I got
Lightning Ninja Perfect Gentleman.
Ghost. What was it like? I got Psychopath Ghost Lightning earlier.
Psychopath Ghost Lightning,
which I'm actually going to change my Steam name to. Which is killing everyone, leaving no witnesses really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very unusual for I don't know how you feel about the genre title puzzle platformer, but it's very unusual for a puzzle platformer to have that leniency in how you approach levels.
Yeah,
they're
I sort
often
of-
much more prescriptive. aren't
Yeah, I didn't really want it to be a puzzle game particularly.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't think it would be
so.
when I started making it because I didn't have the crosslink idea until a little way in, and then crosslink was turned out to be perfect for puzzles. But then that wasn't my original objective in having hacking in it. Like the point of hacking wasn't that I have some puzzles about hacking. It was let's give the player another option and a different way to do this and give them some freedom about it. And so luckily the crosslink is also just very open-ended. So I usually make sure there is some kind of puzzle challenge, so it's never completely obvious what to do, instantly. I mean, if you're really good at it or you just kind of click with the idea, then you might solve something immediately. But there is at least an obstacle to get past. There's some hard reason you can't just do the completely straightforward thing. But then beyond that, there's lots of different ways to do it, as well as the most obvious one.
I was thinking in terms of when Portal came out, Portal really surprised people by how short it was, right? Like it was, I would point to it as the first of a generation of games that are short, but really loved despite lasting 2 or 3 hours in Portal's case. And Portal did not, to my mind, doesn't have a tremendous amount of meaningful variation in how you can solve most of those puzzles. There are faster ways of doing them and more efficient ways of doing them, but certainly nothing as substantially different to different ways of solving a level in Deus Ex, for example.
Oh yeah, you're not making a choice there. You're just being better.
There's no choice. Yeah, exactly. There's no decision expressed or no style expressed really in terms of, which is I guess what links this to Arkham City and everything else. There's no, I've chosen to kind of do this in this way as opposed to this way, and then if the game wants to judge me for that, that's fine. And but that kind of stopped me on the line thinking that I really like games to be about that length now. Like, I would honestly prefer to play more games that lasted 3 to 4 hours, and I got a bit of replay out of in terms of maxing out my mission ratings and stuff, than I would play more 12-hour single-player campaigns that you can only meaningfully get a lot out of once.
Yeah, and I definitely, I knew that some people think 3 hours is just flat out too short for a game, and so I knew I would get criticised for that. But I also knew that there are a lot of people who won't complete it if it's longer than that. And so although probably if I was, if I had more ideas for levels and I had more time, I probably would have made more levels, but I didn't have either.
Yeah.
And the fact that it would also mean loads more people would see the ending and get to see the whole story and have a kind of complete experience and enjoy it more made it an easy decision not to, delay the game by 2 years and try and do another 30 missions.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, I mean, the other side to it is in terms of seeing things to the end, I had an interesting conversation, not to spoil stuff that will be going into the magazine, but small part of it. I've been working on a feature on Torment, the new Planescape. Well, it's not Planescape, it's Numenera, but the Torment sequel. I've been talking to those guys a lot for a feature. This is as close to a plug as I'll get. And but something that came up was that if your game is long, you have a huge amount of limitation on the amount of meaningful choice you can offer the player.
Yeah.
Because if you get to hour 80 and the player doesn't like something that happens in response to a decision they make, they will just load a save. Because the thought of replaying the game to see what could have happened at that point has become a huge waste of their time. Like, I'm talking about the kind of late game BioWare game decisions that get a companion killed or someone abandons you. Like, at that point, no one goes, oh man, that sucks that happened. I can't wait to play this 100-hour RPG again to find out how that could have gone differently. They go, I've got to save an hour ago. Okay, I'll go back. It's a bummer, but I'll do it again. And and the only exceptions to that are as if the triggering event that causes the bad thing to happen happened so far before the thing that people don't like that they then go, oh god, that's awful, what? And they just feel bad then for the rest of the time. And so therefore, it's more important to make a shorter game that people will see through and potentially replay and have a coherent experience twice with, than to have a long game which basically incentivizes people to have a really incoherent experience where they're constantly going back and backtracking and redoing things to kind of because they've invested so much they won't accept anything other than a perfect ending. It feels like if you can accept the idea that games are allowed to be 2 hours long sometimes, or allowed to be an hour long, or allowed to be 5 minutes long, then depending on price point, obviously, and value on a case-by-case basis, then you can get towards like far more mature forms of game storytelling.
I think Graham mentioned Mask recently on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a perfect example. It's really short to play through once, but you'd never even think to like quick save or quick load really, because it's all about what happens without you expecting it to, and just rolling with those punches and finding out how that plays out in one go through. And sure enough, it is much more mature kind of storytelling, even though it's really like soapy and simplistic. It's like you get involved in all kinds of like emotional dramas that you wouldn't normally in video games. Certainly not in ones where that emotional drama is not ordained. You know, it doesn't have to happen that way. It could have happened a different way.
Like, and people talk about, you know, I think one of the most common, and we actually got a question about this in the Twitter question, so maybe we'll come back to it, but or consider this an answer to it. But endings in games, like if an ending is ever negative or unclear or leaves a lot to the players' imagination, or requires a bit of piecing together after the fact where you sit down and think about it, normally there's an overwhelmingly negative response from the community, right? Like normally that's when like things are properly broken and petitions start getting set up to get things altered.
When you say unclear, do you mean ambiguous or just
ambiguous. I mean ambiguous. I think ambiguous is often I think ambiguous is often unfairly characterized as they didn't put any effort in.
Right.
Where's my lengthy epilogue kind of thing. And I think part of that comes again from the same issue of people kind of gaming the system so much over the course of a long RPG, say, that by the time it gets to the end, anything that's not fully cut and dry or kind of super positive is sort of like, oh, well, why did I put all this effort in only to get this kind of like question mark? All right, I don't want to go off and be thoughtful now. I want to. Where's my fucking ice cream?
And in Mass Effect 3, obviously, you've had 3 whole games
to set that. Yeah, exactly. Whereas, you know, I think people like talking to the Planescape guys, sorry, not Planescape, Torment guys again. This is really interesting. Where, you know, the other key of making sure that people don't keep reloading a save to get the best ending is make sure that every ending is the best ending. Which is that the ending you should be aspiring to as a player is not the one where your character gets everything they want. It's the one that is the most appropriate to the story that you are being told, or that you're telling yourself in a kind of dialogue with the game, right? That you're making decisions and the game is kind of presenting you with situations, and then the ending you get should feel satisfying, but it should not necessarily be a good ending.
Is that true in Gunpoint? Or is there an ending which you think is the best ending?
No, I really wanted to... so it's inspired by some noir influences, and one of the things I wanted to kind of ape from that was the sort of unhappy compromise type feeling where towards the end you kind of get what you want, but maybe it wasn't really worth it given that you had what you had to sacrifice to get it, or you're faced with a situation where both options suck in different ways. And that's one of the things you can... like. Actually, no, maybe I shouldn't say that. Well, there's an interactive epilogue, and one of your options is to reflect on the fact that you picked the least shitty of two shitty sides.
Yeah, that's what I said in the epilogue.
That's sort of how I expect people to feel, because it is kind of intentional that neither option is good. There's not a good ending, a bad ending. It's there's two characters, both of whom are compromised in different ways. One of them, so I can talk about it without mentioning any plot stuff. What I was hoping is that people would like one character, but think that the other one was morally in the right to what they're asking them to do. So basically, the character you like is asking you to do something wrong, and a character you don't like is asking you to do the right thing. And then you'd have to sort of like figure out where your priorities lie. And I was worried a bit that everyone would just go with the character they liked, but actually that doesn't seem to be the case, because there's an achievement for each one.
I've not met anybody who did that yet.
Who did?
Who went with the character they liked.
I did the morally right thing.
I did the morally right thing. Graham did the morally right thing.
Really?
It speaks to the character of your friends.
Well, when I was checking my Steam feed earlier, 2 out of the 3 people went with the person they liked.
Yeah, what does that say about us? We will betray our friends as long as we think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are paragons of moral justice. But I think in our own way, I think all what works, us tiny Batmen.
So I was worried. It'd be unanimous in the other direction, and I'm glad there's at least disagreement about it.
I felt like it was a toss-up, you know. I
thought about it for about a minute.
But I'm going to go back and finish the other playthrough I've got, so I'll see the other ending. Probably.
I'll say I think it's probably worth letting people know that there isn't a different mission; it's a different objective for the same mission.
Yeah, that's
right. So there's no, and that was originally my very first plan for Gunpoint. It was all going to be ultra branching. It was going to be every decision you made would take you down a totally different path. And then when I found out how hard it is to make missions, I realised I can't really afford to make any missions that not everyone sees, because that's just a massive waste of time. Like, it would be automatically better if I just made, instead of doing 2 missions and it branches, if I just made 2 missions and it doesn't branch. That would just be better, because content was always going to be the limiting factor.
In terms of the the dialogue trees, and especially at the end, though, I think giving the player the option to say, why they did something, or B, that they don't give a shit, is kind of a good out for you. Like in terms of like people saying it, because like it means that you've given people a voice. You know, like it's a bit like if at the end of Mass Effect 3, if I was spoiling anything about Mass Effect 3, you'd had the option, actually, which is kind of what they added. Like when they did the extended cut ending, they did add the ability for Shepard to go, "This is all bullshit." Have you seen that ending?
No. We've heard from players that you'd like to be able to say, "This is all bullshit." So you added the line, like, "This is all bullshit."
I wish it was just this. Like, basically, you know, when
just, oh come on,
they added the ability to completely refuse any of the options you're given at the very climax of Mass Effect 3, and you can it either triggers if you stand there in the options place for ages and don't do anything, or it triggers if you can just say it to the final NPC you talk to. You can say, "This is all bullshit," and like at which point it cuts to a cutscene of what would happen next if Shepard just didn't do anything. And you know, it's a bittersweet to say the least.
Yeah.
I think most people's objection to those kind of endings, which are maybe not the ones that are ambiguous, but ones which have some kind of negative fallout to them. It's not usually the negativity of it that irks me. I can think of specific examples, but I won't mention them because I'll be spoiling things again. But it's the contrived way in which they wrap things up. They give you things don't. It always seems. I
think
like an arbitrary.
I think they get to their most contrived at the end, regardless, in many ways. And if you're going to make any kind of great big thematic point about what this has all been about, then that's the time to do it. Pretty much, like that's the only defense really for what I would call the Deus Ex paradigm, which is the. Like, literally you get put in a room at the end where you're asked to choose what you thought the theme of the game was.
Yes. Yeah,
like, that's the Deus Ex ending, right? Like, oh, I thought it was humans are better than machines. Oh, I thought it was machines are better than humans. I thought it was moo.
Like everything.
Yeah, like, and then, you know, which is actually not dissimilar to sort of Mass Effect as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, most games, and that can work, I think. You know, it's easy to pick the holes in it, especially in the way it's presented. Like, the games have done that very badly. In terms of, you couldn't more transparently be a room with 3 levers in it, and you pull the one.
Yeah, but that's rubbish, isn't it? It's kind of like
it's rubbish presentation. But the idea itself, I don't really have a problem with. I don't really have a problem with the idea of games becoming more sort of like the reality of the fiction breaking down a little bit in order for it to become more explicitly like, you know, because they're always Deus Ex Machina endings as well, right? Like they are, pun not intended, they are always. You know, God coming out of the machine and telling
saying,
you
which epilogue would you like?
Exactly, but like that's why that phrase exists. It's the voice of either the God or the fiction itself or the author kind of coming in and saying, kind of finishing the dialogue that the whole thing has been.
That's why it's quite nice to do an interactive one for Gunpoint, where because like the dialogue trees in conversations are the objective all the way through when writing those is to make sure. Whatever the player's feeling about this, he has a way to, he or she has a way to not necessarily get their own way, but just to comment on it. Like you can sort of, if you don't like a person, but for some reason you need something they have, you get the option to be a dick to them. Or if you don't think something makes sense, you can just say, this doesn't really make any sense, and then go and do the mission anyway. And so then in the epilogue, you get to say, you get to both justify why you made the choice you made. You can say like, oh, the reason I sided with this person was because I thought the cost was too high for the other option, or because I thought it was the right thing to do. Or you can actually say, I regret it now. I wish I hadn't done that. It didn't seem to work out that well.
Yeah, and likewise just the achievement for ludonarrative dissonance and that kind of thing as well. Like but I think you're right. Like it's not so much giving people a response to what they've chosen; it's giving them the chance to choose it.
Yeah,
right? You know what I mean.
You just feel like you had your say. Like I just want it on record that I thought that was bullshit.
Yeah, because like the exact wrong thing to do would be to give someone the option at the very end to say, "Oh man, I kind of regret doing that." At which point, a time wizard shows up and says, "And now the rest of the game where we go back in time to fix it. What else would you like while we're doing this?" Like that's
it's also frustrating games when you make a choice and then the game interprets it and then says, oh, because you did this, you must want to do this, and then shows you the cutscene for that. Like Bioshock 1, if you do the bad thing and you kill little citizens instead of saving them, it assumes you want to recruit an army of splicers to steal a nuclear sub and destroy the world.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't what I was saying. I wanted Adam. I wanted to upgrade myself a bit
I wanted
more.
to survive, and I've decided to survive by stealing this nuclear submarine. Yeah. That's... Tom? Sorry, that both my statement trailed off, and almost Martin, you're
I don't know what you're trying to say. You've crashed. Somebody
I'm going to
reboot
reboot myself.
Let's
but-
move on.
Yeah.
What about E3, guys? You excited?
I kind of forgot about it. I actually, to the point where when I suddenly, Graham was saying, I'll be flying out on this day. I'm like, shit, have I put my launch date for my game in the middle of E3? But no, it's a week.
No, good
No.
timing. I think it's going to be great.
really
think it's
couldn't
going
care
to be. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great for PC. Because all these games that are going to be announced for consoles, slightly shaky consoles that nobody has a great deal of confidence in.
You're excited about how much they're going to fail.
No, well, I mean, no, but I mean, developers would be mad not to make
Schadenfreude
them
week.
very cross-compatible with PC, wouldn't they? Because the next generation of consoles is such an uncertain bet. The reaction
so
to
everyone wants to
Microsoft
hedge their
stuff
bets.
is not being great so far.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's it's all coming up PC.
I think we'll get something out of it. I don't think it'll come up PC. I think there will be trailers for games that will come out on PC as well, and you go, oh, a trailer for a game that I'm glad exists, or whatever. We find out a bit more about Thief or Dragon Age 3 or Mirror's Edge 2 or whatever else. I don't think in any way the amount of benefit people who play games on PC will get out of E3 will make up for in some cosmic way the amount of money will be spent on E3.
Oh no!
Pointlessly.
Obviously, the whole thing will be a horrible, gaudy bullshit fest.
Yeah,
but I mean,
likewise, I think any of the PC specific publishers that are going to be there, like with PC games like Rome 2 or Arma 3 or whatever else, none of what they have to show is best shown at E3, and they know that, and that's why they've been showing these games off in other sessions for months, because they don't actually want to be there. Really, they just kind of have to be. I think it'll be all right, but I just.
It's worth, we should link in the show notes Graham's Fantasy E3 PC conference. Like if the PC itself had a press conference, who would be there and what they'd say.
Do you know what I want to
happen?
happen?
Has a vision of it.
Not because I want to play Half-Life 3, but I want Valve to announce a really last-minute little shitty conference, right? Like crap little convention center, something, like no big flair, no fireworks. Gabe Newell get up on stage, maybe the day after the Microsoft and Sony conferences, or the day before, and say, Half-Life 3, preloading on soon tomorrow, and just ruin E3. Just like no one.
Everyone goes home.
Everyone leaves. The internet isn't paying attention
They don't
anymore.
even say anything. They just walk out of the room.
Don Matrick walks off stage during a Microsoft conference. That's what I want to happen. Maybe that sounds a bit bitter, but like fuck it. That's the ending I want. Like just. Because, Valve don't have anything to gain or lose from doing that, really. They don't benefit from there being an E3. So, nuke it from orbit with news.
Oh.
Wouldn't that be great, though?
Well, we'd get Half-Life 3 out of it, yeah, sure.
No, but even if...
I quite like E3. I would like
It's
to go
gonna
to
be-
E3.
I hope whatever Valve do when they do announce Half-Life 3, I hope it's something a bit special. Like, I hope it's not just, we're announcing it now, we're ready to talk about it now, and it will be out in like 9 months or something, and we'll have this measured PR campaign over that period. I hope it is sudden, or it's just something crazy, or I think what they'll probably do is it will just be in like Dota 2, or it'll just be in whatever the latest Valve game is at the time. There'll be some secret ARG, and the solution to it will finally get like a Lambda with a 3 on it, and the fanboys will melt.
I just feel like if they do that, it'd be great and everything, but they're missing a priceless opportunity to ruin other people's time.
Wouldn't they think of
Why didn't they want to
things
shit
could
on the
ruin?
rest of the industry?
That's what I would do. If I had that power... That's why I don't have that power. Anyway. E3, I think it'll be... I'm looking forward to the Twitter snark and all of the memes that will come out of it. And I'm quite looking forward to watching the conferences for those reasons. But maybe it's me being super precious about it. But like, I just don't care enough for the marketing, the current sort of like orthodoxies of games marketing, which means that E3 big CGI reveal trailer followed by a bunch of waffle.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll see more, at least of the games which are going to appear at Microsoft's conference, because I imagine the reason that they were so light on games for their Xbox reveal is that they were saving them all up for E3. And
Better well be.
When they say, exclusives, they can be exclusive at launch for a window of a week, so it doesn't mean anything. They're probably going to come to PC anyway.
Hopefully. I was thinking about this. I wouldn't put it past Microsoft to simply fired so much money at it that they actually secure genuine exclusives.
I
That
find
would,
it hilarious.
that would seem arrogant and short-sighted, but games for Windows Live.
I find it hilarious when at these press conferences they announce exclusives like good news. In fact, that's on there to say that we've got some really exciting, brilliant news. This thing that you already knew existed is going to be exclusive to Xbox. That's not good news for
good news
anyone
for them.
except you.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the person on the stage is good news for. No one else in the room. Like, it doesn't help gamers. It doesn't help the people who made the game. It hurts both of those people.
A lot of respect for any exec that got up on stage. Went, good news for shareholders.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest of you, suck it up.
Good news, everybody. We paid money so that other people won't have these toys, but this set of people will have those toys. We paid money to take away toys from people who want them.
We found a really great way of getting a lot of money out of you, everyone. Hey! From the Stooges at the back. God damn it.
Talking about the Stooges at the back, do you want to move to...
I thought we
Twitter
might,
questions?
for 1 week only, resurrect a section of the podcast we exercised a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. What would
It's
that
time
be?
for the Steam charts.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, yes, I like the section. I'm in favour of this.
Number 10 on the Steam
I actually
charts.
don't know at the moment.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a surprise for you. Is Sins of a Solar Empire DLC that I don't know what it is, and I don't have an internet connection, so I can't look it up because my
Rebellion,
phone's on
I
flight
believe.
safe. It's Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion something else. And it costs £3.
Sorry, Emma's great.
It is great, yeah.
Sure, the
Whatever you get from else.
Sure.
If what you get in addition is £2, then
It was, yeah.
brilliant.
At number 9 is Remember Me for £30.
Oh, those poor bastards. See, I was watching. I was after Gunpoint launched. I was looking at the Steam charts,
As we all were. Yeah.
and you showed me this amazing tracker tool which shows you games over
Yeah.
time. And admittedly, Remember Me sales for Remember Me started maybe 3 weeks before Gunpoint's did, I think, or something like
I
that.
thought it was quite new.
It is quite new, but I think there were pre-orders started at that point.
Right.
But
When's it out?
It's out now.
It's out now. But
When did it come out?
This week.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Tuesday,
Tuesday, okay.
I believe.
So
Right,
it
so that's
never
interesting.
really. I think it was at number 1 or 2 very briefly, and then Gunpoint twatted it off the top mark, and it's plummeted off the charts. And it's just
Those people can't be expected to keep up with things like Gunpoint. They can't catch up with the juggernauts.
Isn't it terrifying? It must be terrifying for people who work in the AAA sector, because this is a game that they've been making since 2008 with a team of 40 people. It's obviously quite a large budget game, and it's probably
Mixed reviews followed
it's
by,
probably
yeah.
made less money than Gunpoint has at this point.
Well, if it's come out since... Actually, God, yeah.
Pub after.
If it came out on Tuesday, then it didn't overtake me. Because I was number 1 for like 22 hours, and the only things that overtaken me since then are Skyrim and Batman.
All right, Gunpoint. All right. Yeah, I mean...
That is
speaking of-
disturbing. I mean, just
okay,
as a sort of
can we-
statement on the industry, though, that's interesting.
To throw them a bone, can we describe what their game is? Rather than
I think
just
it looks
simply
really interesting. I'm
describe
really looking forward to playing it.
the parameters by which Thomas kicked its
I tell you
ass.
what. Well, rather than just apparently, I don't know when the review embargo is, but like,
Our review's gone up.
Oh, okay. In that case,
Cassandra Core reviewed it for us.
it's probably not very good. I think.
Is
the
forgettable was a big word.
consensus-
Apparently, it's beautifully designed. Looks great.
It does look great. You should go. Everybody should go to Dead End Thrills and look at the pictures that he's taken in that
notes, show
game,
notes,
because
show
they are
notes.
fucking unbelievable. It's one of the most beautifully realised future Parises in a game
Apparently,
ever.
playing it in the original French helps quite a lot with its sort of
Bad
overtone, bad acting, and kind of very wordy pretentiousness.
I really like
if you
playing
treat
games in foreign languages.
Like if you treat it as a foreign film rather than as a Western game, then it's sort of like what would be deemed excessively florid writing.
Exactly.
Is more forgivable.
It's
remember
amazing
getting-
how many plots can be improved by not understanding a single word of the plot.
Yeah. And apparently, I think there's some sort of mechanical, interesting things in it. I think it's.
Oh, really?
I think it's a solid. I can't remember exactly
I
what
tried.
Thomas
I
gave it.
tried it on a stand at a convention.
I think we gave it
and
68.
My experience with it was so negative that I wasn't quite sure whether the controller was broken or not. But according to other people who've played it, no, actually, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Working as intended.
There's been comparisons made to things like Mirror's Edge, in terms of lots of nice ideas, beautiful design, garbage plot.
Maybe I want to watch someone else play it.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube, perhaps. At number 8, okay, this is why we don't. This is the Steam charts. I can't fucking count. Is Prison Architect, a game that includes Gunpoint creator Tom Francis.
That's true. I'm technically in it.
As a convict.
My name is Tom Gunpoint Francis. And I have a backstory about how I held some old age pensioners at gunpoint and they all died of heart attacks, except one who shot me.
As in and in the game. So yeah, Prison Architect, which is in alpha.
Fantastic.
We just
Good fun.
yeah, we just did our. I think it was the topic of our first alpha review in the magazine, which is what we're doing now.
Wow, okay. What do you guys give
We
it?
don't do scores.
We gave it a
You
score
don't
of
do
alpha.
scores.
We gave it a
There's actually
score.
an alpha symbol.
Yeah, it's
in
an
the
alpha
score box.
symbol, but the score is wait and see. It's basically, is this currently worth your time? And the verdict was wait and see. At the moment, like not quite yet.
Okay.
But that's the Introversion Guys Prison Simulator. At number 7 is the Arma 3 Alpha.
I did Snipers recently, I believe.
Just in case you needed to die and not know why.
Yes.
In Armored 3. At number 6 is Sangfroid Tales of Ellipsis.
So werewolf game, I believe?
It's not called Tales of Ellipsis. It's called
Okay.
My phone screen doesn't have the whole title, and again, lack of internet connection.
Tales of Ellipsis does sound like it could be.
You could get
a
away with
game,
that easily.
Yeah, indeed. Apologies to Sangfroid Tales of Ellipsis. I will
Tales
look
of the Werewolf or something like that. I think
Okay.
it is. Yeah.
That would make sense. Is Sangfroid cold-blooded?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. I don't know anything about it. Does anyone know anything about it?
No, I don't actually. Sorry.
Okay.
It's doing well though.
But not as well as number 5, Gunpoint. The popular Tom Francis simulator from games journalist Tom Francis, which we've talked about probably at sufficient length already. How do you feel, Tom, knowing that you've been knocked down a few notches?
Quite surprised that I'm still there because I asked people to buy it on Steam instead of the humble store just for launch day because I was hoping to get into the charts, like just in the top 10 somewhere. And we shot to number 1 and stayed there for like a day, and then I thought, like, brilliant, we did our thing, and now it's going to drop straight out. But it's just sort of hovered there. Like, quite
I suppose
high.
the visibility of it helps.
Yeah,
I mean that's why I did it. I was hoping it would kind of snowball a little bit, but I didn't actually expect it to.
Well, congratulations on your snowball.
Thank you.
Men who don't like snowballs feature in number 4, which is Company of Heroes 2, which I've played a decent amount of, and it's Company of Heroes again. You know,
Is it out?
I don't know.
Does it say on the
this
Steam
week, I
charts?
think maybe. I know we're reviewing it currently.
So it's probably not out
This
yet.
is all stuff that would be great to know, isn't it? But no, Company of Heroes 2 is coming out very soon. Played a bunch of it for a magazine feature and liked it a lot. It's definitely Company of Heroes again, but that was an excellent game the first time around. And I enjoyed what I played the single player. Lots of kind of really cool presentation and sort of exciting mission design and things. I think I'm talking to Tom Senior, who's played a ton of it in multiplayer. He thinks they may have overcomplicated it a little bit, and that's knocked down a few notches from the original. So maybe we wouldn't expect it to score as highly as the original, because. But I mean, I think they've got sound reasons for not reinventing the wheel on it. Which I had a conversation with Quinn Duffy from Relic, who's the lead designer, who said that they completely reinvented the wheel for Dawn of War between Dawn of War 1 and 2. Dawn of War 1 was a squad-based strategy game. Dawn of War 2 was close to an RPG with squad-based strategy game elements. And they assumed that they would have this audience of people who love strategy games, and then they would add to that audience all of these people who loved RPGs. And what they did was swapped audiences for an audience of comparable size. So they ended up with 2 different communities of people who like different games in the same series, as opposed to one big community. So hence with Company of Heroes 2, they just went, let's do it again and reward the community that's still around. Fair enough. Number 3 is Rome 2. Total War, which is finally showing off some details. I think the reason it's jumped up ahead of Gunpoint.
Hard though it may be to believe
Yeah.
that Rome 2 could sell almost as much as me.
Is that there's been a big sort of information dump today, or the day of recording, in terms of people finally being able to talk about the campaign map, which I haven't seen, despite having seen that game tons. I haven't seen the campaign map yet. I'm really excited about it. I think that's going to be the best PC game this year, in my opinion.
Second best.
Yeah, there's a great bit where you rewire Romans.
Well, then it would be the best.
Yeah,
Obviously.
kick a door into a Roman's face.
Man, that would be fucking great.
Yeah.
I want to buy that game.
Rewire their shields to open someone else's face.
Total gun Rome point. Then number 2 is Batman Arkham Asylum for £2.50, and then number 1 is Batman Arkham City for £5, which are
pretty good.
frankly bargains for those games. If you haven't actually played them, then that's, for slightly more than the price of Gunpoint, you can get both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City and all of the DLC for
I'm
both of them.
surprised not to see
Astonishing.
Red Orchestra Rising Storm in the top 10. Has it been there and disappeared, or
Sinking Storm.
Sinking Storm? Apparently, yeah, it's really good. Everybody should check it out.
Yeah, it
Is
is
that
good.
new?
It is.
I
Yeah.
lose track of Red Orchestras.
It's a new one, yeah.
Yeah,
Red
sorry,
Orchestra.
well, it was started off as a mod actually for Red Orchestra 2, and then it was so good that the Tripwire people said, "We'll have that and we'll sell it."
Awesome.
And it is really, really good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more of it. It's we've had a lot of good times with Red Orchestra.
Flamethrowers are fucking terrifying as well.
Yeah. War is terrifying. Is the
Yeah,
takeaway
war is
from-
terrifying. Yeah.
War is
really
terrifying.
liked-
We would be bad at it.
As I was playing with Owen Hill, former web editor, the other night, and he accurately...
former web editor. Your
Former.
web editor.
Sorry, yes, yeah. And he described it as COD for dads, which I think's probably
COD
true,
dad.
and probably why I like it so
Call
much,
of
even
Dad.
though I'm not technically a dad.
Call of Daddy.
Yeah. Yes.
What do
Imagine
we
playing-
think of the Double Fine Kickstarter, Massive Chalice?
What a great idea for a
Massive
game.
Yeah. Chalice.
This is the first Kickstarter that I've actually considered putting money for. Yeah, I thought it was very, very appealing indeed.
Yeah, the actual concept for the game, which is like a kind of turn-based strategy RPG thing where you can play as successful generations of ancestors in a kind of permadeath system.
Yeah.
It's basically it's Crusader Kings for kids. I don't know, or for other people who aren't the usual Crusader
Yeah.
Kings audience.
Yeah, it sounds great. I really want it to exist, that game. I'm on the fence about whether Double Fine are the people to do it. Would be my assessment.
I was. I don't know if they've released anything since the campaign launched. When it launched, there wasn't any sort of like footage of it or anything, or sort of specifics that I could get my head around. So I really like to see something working before I decide whether I'm actually excited about it. But in theory, it could be cool.
Yeah. I think the notion of Double Fine making a strategy game and everything that kind of reminds me a bit of like Mojang making Scrolls, right? Like the skill set you require in order to properly balance and make an interesting sort of stats-based strategy game are kind of specific, and I think there's a reason they've always been located in particular studios.
Did you play Iron Brigade?
I didn't actually, to be fair.
No, neither have I. Which is the game by.
I suppose
by
Costume
the
Quest was an RPG as well,
Yeah.
but a lightweight one. And that's the thing is,
But I don't mind that. I quite want actually a lightweight RPG that ties in the kind of level of persistence and overarching realm choices that you get in something like Crusader Kings, one of these kind of epic strategy games, because you don't ever find that in combination. I want I want Advance Wars, but with
shagging.
shagging illegitimate children. That kind of thing.
Was that shagging and illegitimate children?
Sorry, yes. Yes, there was
That's the
definitely
most crucial and you've ever said or missed.
very separate bullet points.
Yeah. Back of the box. Separate bullet points.
Yes.
There's a moment just to move on to questions from Twitter.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Graham Smith asks, what is the worst seat on an airplane? Is it the one I'm in right now by the toilets? Graham Smith, editor
question,
of
I
PC
think.
Gamer, is currently flying to America prior to E3. So, yeah,
Depends if you've got a bladder condition or not, because then that would be a mighty convenient seat.
that would be, yeah. If
I
you've
did
got-
have a journey where we were on the ground for like 2 hours before we could take off, but not knowing whether it would be 2 hours or whether we were about to take off at any minute. And everyone was quite antsy, but in particular the guys behind me would just sort of like rap on the seat in impatience all the fucking time. And like for the whole 2 hours, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to say something. No, I'm not going to say that. No, now I am. No, we're going to take off any second.
Yeah.
And then like 2 hours later, we did take off.
I was once stuck on a plane on a runway for 6 hours during a hurricane.
Oh my
It was the
God.
biggest hurricane in Chicago in years and years and years. Wiped out like the lights of 200,000 houses.
Couldn't they have like let you out of the plane? Like we're probably not going to take off any second.
No, because you're trapped in a queue of planes and you can't let people off when there are planes with their idle engineering. Like
right.
you're stuck in literally a queue, and eventually the pilot drove the plane off the runway and pointed it into the wind with its flaps up. And I was talking to him at a bar later that evening because of how the rest of the evening panned out, and he confessed that it's the most scared he'd ever been in his career.
Wow.
Because even though he knew that there was probably nothing that was going to go wrong. Even though no one on the ground felt like there was anything that would really go wrong when we were on the ground, he knew that if the wind caught the plane in the wrong way, planes are designed to catch wind and kind of that it could flip over and blow up. So I'm glad that didn't happen.
This is your captain speaking. There's a small chance we may flip over and blow up.
Yeah, he didn't say that. He
So
didn't say
that would have been the worst seat on any plane.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. Although actually, I recently, I must specify when, flew business class for the first time ever. And that was fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. You don't want to get off, do you?
No, it's like being a pissed baby. Like someone puts you in a cot, but they're fully reclining seats and they're in a little alcove. Someone puts you in a cot and then ensures that you're drunk. Like, you know what I mean? It feels like, you have like the old kind of like parent thing of just dipping the baby's dummy in a little drop of whiskey to go to sleep, right? That's all I think flight stewarding is in business class.
But it's a glass dipping into the whiskey.
Yeah, all of these adults would be much easier to control if they were under a blanket, drunk,
and watching an emotional movie.
Watching a movie, and everyone's like, so I just looked out the window and like,
I have been pacified.
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't realize they would keep feeding me drinks because I had the kind of flown economy for all the years I've been flying, and I've flown a lot. So I used to kind of like seize upon every opportunity you get for a precious snack. And this time, like, and like nothing like going, I think would I like a drink? Yeah, I'd like the Bordeaux. No, I am very drunk. Yes, sleeping now is great. Properly pacified.
Well, that probably made Graham feel better.
Yeah, indeed. Elliot Metzen asks, has a video game ever made you cry tears of sadness as opposed to tears of happiness or tears of arousal or tears of frustration? The Walking Dead was the last one to do it for me.
No, I don't think so.
I don't really cry. I got a bit weepy in Mass Effect 3, but only like not in a welling up slightly sort of way, not in a like actually crying kind of way.
No, I don't think so. Soz.
Soz lol. Yeah. PC Gamer's emotional heart says.
Yeah, we are cold. We would choose truth over whatever.
Some games have affected me emotionally, but I don't think I've ever been. Oh, I don't know. Actually, maybe there are moments of poignancy in Red Dead Redemption, game which will never be coming to PC. Sorry, which I thought were particularly well done and quite moving.
Yeah,
I don't think I teared up, but you know,
I certainly felt emotions.
Yeah.
PC Gamer's Chris Thurston. Bold statement.
Yeah, I've certainly had them. That's happened.
You know what? Protesting too much, isn't it? If you're an android in disguise. I've certainly had emotions. Let's not...
Hey guys, let's not draw the gun here. Right? I've not had all of them. Happy.
I think he's passed the Turing test.
Yeah.
Test. If that came up from an AI. Yeah. I've certainly had emotions, if that's what you're wondering.
Happy. I've had not happy.
Are you guys more emotional on
I've had hungry.
Yes.
Emotional on planes.
Because this is the sappiest rom-com will get me completely.
Like, because I was talking ages ago, I was talking to former editor of Edge, Alex, about this, and we both discovered that we tear up
It's
at
a known
films.
thing.
Apparently so. Yeah, it was on This American Life, another excellent podcast that you should listen to. This fairly recently. Apparently it's a known phenomenon, but nobody had any decent explanation of why this would be the case.
Yeah, isn't it something to do with pressure? Well, actually, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I often feel quite like, I think when I'm travelling, I really love travelling, partly because I always feel like far a greater sense of clarity than I feel at any other time in my life. Like, if I'm travelling, I feel super awake and alert and on the ball. And, like, I think it might be partly the simple act of organising things, you know what I mean? Knowing where you have to be and when and having these papers or whatever. But also, I love being on planes for however amount of time because the most efficient use of my time, except in cases where maybe I have a little bit of work to do or something, is to simply do nothing. And there's very few times in your life where you can justify to yourself doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, giving yourself a little bit of time to lie down and do nothing at 4 o'clock. Like, I really like that kind of like, I can serve my purpose best by staying completely still.
Yeah.
Like,
I really like that.
To conserve energy.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's partly like a bit of disconnection. Like, you know, I can't, well, an international flight, currently at least, you can't connect to the internet, at least not in economy class. And so there's no kind of, there's a bunch of things you can't do. And then also, you don't have to do anything. Like, for the next 8 to 12 hours, no one is going to ask anything of me. I have no responsibilities. Even if I did have responsibilities, I couldn't fulfill them. So, again, as you say, only if you don't have any work to do.
Yeah. I mean, I have sort of jet lag regimes that I do just to kind of, so like I'll never sleep on a westbound flight during the day, for example, to make sure I don't like feel like shit when I arrive in America or wherever. And that sort of stuff keeps me really focused and kind of like, and I can kind of watch films. I watch a lot of films when I fly with like, because I catch up on them, like Oscar movies I missed or whatever, with like an intensity I can't match in real life. And I wonder if maybe that was what I was circling back around to, is like maybe that's why there's sort of this emotional response. It's because your focus is that much greater because the situation you're in is so strange, but also relatively without distraction.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's sort of it's unsettling, but it's Anyway, this is not the planes. This is not the Virgin Atlantic podcast. So.
I think we've answered Elliot's question there.
Yeah, I think it was a no, and then we talked about something else for 5 minutes.
I reckon it's because gravity is weaker, and so like a little thing.
So your emotions just
your
fly out?
suppression lever in your brain is not pressing down quite as hard on your emotional bit of your
There's
brain.
just guys in the International Space Station. Like,
And I believe that's science.
yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Also, you're drunk.
Yeah. You're drunk, baby. Have
But
a try.
so the reason I have something in my head saying there is some science to this is because they tell you that drink will affect you more when you're high up.
Yes. Yeah.
So there must be the same thing, right?
It must be. Yeah.
All the emotion in your blood.
Well, if there's something that can make alcohol have a stronger effect on your bloodstream, then maybe that also affects the, I don't know.
I think it's to do with the thinning of your blood at altitude, isn't it?
So surely that's related to you.
Oh,
getting
yeah, I
more-
suppose so. Maybe
We are
I don't
not
know.
This is off topic. isn't it?
Not decided.
Let's all a bunch of people who don't know anything about this talk about it and try and come to a conclusion.
Fruitman 1. Suck it, Fruitman. Asks, I recently finished Black Mesa, presumably Black Mesa Source, one of the best games I've played. What are your thoughts on it and on Half-Life 3?
I actually haven't played the Black Mesa
Nor have I.
remake.
Neither have I.
Oh well.
And Half-Life 3? Wow.
Use it as a weapon to ruin E3. That's what I want. And we could talk about that game for
Weaponise Half-Life 3.
potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember when they showed videos of Half-Life 2? Like probably some of the first ones with like Trap Town and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There was a bit in there that I really wanted and wasn't in the final game. And I don't totally know why. But like a zombie shuffling towards him and he shoots a plank in the harbour and it breaks and so the zombie falls into the water like a ragdolls. And you could never actually do that in the final game.
And is that your wish list for
Yeah,
Half-Life 3?
that's it. If they can do it at Half-Life 3, I'm
More
fucking
plank
mad.
work, please, Valve.
But it just like it was one of those moments that like just suggests, wow, this whole world is made of like breakable stuff and everything. You know, you can just think up your own ways of solving situations and stuff.
Will
Coming
Half-Life
next,
3
Gunplank.
Will Half-Life 3 have some form of microtransactable hats in it?
I think no.
Or not even hats, but any kind of microtransaction thing. I think it will. I think they feel it has to. Yeah.
Do you know what?
I think
Even
that-
if it's in the kind of co-op side part, which may or may not exist.
Co-op Half-Life 3 announced. By
We are
like
making
it
shit
is
up
in
as we go.
Portal 2, you know.
I think they are sensitive to the fact that gamers are sensitive to that not being in that kind of. I think with Portal's a funny game, and so having a silly hat that you can wear only in the multiplayer mode for the funny robot is
maybe Half-Life 3 will be
cohesive.
multiplayer.
The thing is, like, there's so many interesting things they could do, and I was at Valve recently, and I didn't expect to get anything. I mean, I didn't ask about Half-Life 3 on purpose because it felt crass to do so. Because, you know, if they're not talking about it to this extent, then they're not going to. If some journalist wobbles up and goes, "So how about the Half-Life 3?" and they're not going to go, "Oh, we were waiting for someone to ask." You know what I mean? Like, they would have just said it. So I didn't say anything. But I did, you know, they were fairly candid about the fact that they just like working on those like the multiplayer games now, that it's far more satisfying for them and the people who work there as designers for the most part. And you can observe. Have we talked about this on the podcast before? But
Don't know. Don't think so.
But like you certainly observe that in the people who wanted to do sort of big idiosyncratic single player stuff, like Kim Swift left, and maybe the world just isn't there. And if they do, but if they did do it, they probably don't need to justify it as a business expense too much because they're Valve. And you know, it would be amazing to see them do something kind of batshit, like make it free, like no catch other than you need a Steam account. Like
It would be cool. I don't know how plausible that is.
I think it's plausible on the grounds that I think one of Valve's prime objectives at the moment, from a business point of view, if that's even the right way of attributing intent to them, is to get Steam accounts everywhere, right? Like that's a big drive, I think, behind Dota 2 in some ways, and you know, like that's.
Well, they can make it Steam exclusive anyway, can't they? So
Yeah.
it'll be.
But like, I mean, I'm just thinking about how much of how big could they turn that announcement bomb into an announcement bomb, and that's how big. That's how big. It's preloading now and it's free. Any other thoughts on?
Oh, well, I mean,
I
like
like-
you said, we could talk about it for hours.
Yeah,
maybe.
I like to forget about Half-Life 3. I prefer if no one mentions it.
I'd love for us just to make a single player game of any kind, actually. That'd
Yeah.
be great. John Armour asks, what was the last game in which you were genuinely upset that your character died, and how did it happen?
Interesting question. Oh, it could be a bit of a spoiler if we're talking about things that are plot related. But if it's things that are,
Did you say a character or your character?
Your character.
if it's
so-
just the happenstance,
I died in a game and it sucked.
yeah, of a game. where you can die but don't need to through any kind of narrative intervention. I don't find myself very often sad about that. Like when, Lara Croft falls off a cliff or something like that, I don't shed a tear because
But she was trying so hard.
I can just reload.
Yeah, exactly.
And she can try harder.
You can do it, Lara.
Yeah.
I guess Spelunky.
Is that
possible
sad,
to get through?
though? I suppose
pretty-
actually the swapper where so many of your clones die horribly is
You get
is
numb to it
certain
after a
kind of-
while, though. Right?
Yeah, there's a kind of melancholy to it. Horrible. Yeah.
I mean, like if you play Diablo hardcore, obviously that's going to be. It's mostly going to be frustration, though, isn't it? It's just going to be like, fuck's sake.
Like when Metro quick saved me at the bottom of a lake. Thanks.
That sounds good.
I almost had a perfect game of Dota, like a couple of days ago. By a perfect game, I mean win, lots of kills, no deaths. And then right at the end of the game, and this only Dota people will understand this, failed an armlet toggle really badly and got killed by a ranged creep. Which is a technique whereby you can use an item that adds strength that's temporary but drains your health while it's running. And then if you switch it off, you can lose all the health you gained. But obviously, if you're on no health and you gain that bonus health, and then you switch it off again, you go to 1 health because it can't kill you. Switching it off can't kill you. But you can sort of toggle it to kind of keep weighing the bonus against the negative. This isn't going to make any sense in the time I've got to explain it. Anyway, you can temporarily dip your health down to 1 and then zip it back up again. And I fucked that up and got killed by one of the weakest enemies in the game. Was my perfect game of Dota? I was pretty
Sadness
upset.
you felt?
Yeah.
Aww.
It was the sadness of, that would have looked boss on my stats.
I had a great pseudo-melancholy death in Fahrenheit, or Indigo Prophecy if you're in America, where the first time you control the dude, or the first time you're a dude
I
in
was
his
just thinking
apartment.
of like David Cage's The Big Lebowski there.
And you're just walking around the apartment opening drawers and stuff, and you've got like there's some pills by your bed, and you take some pills, and then you go over to like the kitchen, there's some food in the cabinet, there's a bottle of whiskey, I poured myself a whiskey, drank the whiskey, just faded to black, just said he died because he mixed alcohol and pills. That was the end of the game.
Grim.
Yeah, it's a game that's reliant on your psychological state, isn't it? If you get below a certain threshold of happiness,
Maybe it just knocks a certain amount of points off, and I was already low or something.
I think, I think if you get below
At
a
the
certain
time,
threshold, you just die.
At the time, I assumed it was hard-coded.
I think there's something about a vending machine. If you don't get a bottle of Coke out of it, or something like
Pushes
that,
you over the edge.
Yeah, it pushes you over the edge, and you can die.
Oh, this is just it. The murder I was all right with, but come on. Yeah, there's problems with making things into rigid mechanical systems.
James Vokes asks a question we've kind of answered. Who cares about Gunpoint? What did you think of the swapper?
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, we've answered that. But
I think we've answered who cares about Gunpoint as well.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Tom. I can't tell whether that was self-deprecating or not. Like, that could have gone either way.
I meant it to be we said enough, but...
Oh, okay. Not in the look at the Steam charts kind of. Aaron V asks, before Tom leaves PC Gamer to swim in piles of money, could he do a How I Made a Game feature?
Well, I did I mean, that's what you get in the exclusive edition of Gunpoint, available now on Steam.
Tom. We don't even shill the magazine on this.
I talk a lot about how to make a game. Like, there's a talk of me at Minecon talking about that. There's lots of posts about it on my blog. There's a video on there.
I'll put a link to pentattack.com in the show notes.
But yeah, I can't promise I'll do a feature on it. We did already do a feature on how to make a game, in which I did make a game, and so did Craig and Graham and somebody else maybe. And mine was not technically a game, it was a mod, because it was used Source Engine, but it was standalone if you own any Source Engine games, like a source mod. And you stood in a room and breeze blocks and stuff fell on you, and you just had to dodge them. And originally it was going to be like you had to dodge them but then climb on them to pile up to reach the exit, but I couldn't get that done in time, so it's just like 3 levels of just... First you have to avoid breeze blocks, then it's bicycles, then it's just like desks fall on you. And there was a bug at the end where at the end of each level you get sucked up into the ceiling, and in the final level there's like 6 or 7 NPCs, like standard civilians from Half-Life 2 standing there, and you're supposed to like try and save them by grabbing things out of the air before they hit the NPCs. And then when you get sucked up at the end, there's like an anti-gravity field or something, but it doesn't quite work on NPCs. They keep resetting to the ground, so they lift up and then they jerk back down, and it looks like they're jumping in celebration. So there's just a little crowd of people going, "Yay! You saved some of us."
What a long journey it's been.
A lot of similar themes in Gunpoint.
Yeah. Brandon Fitz asks, what direction do you see computers on the gaming end going in the next few years?
Like I was talking about the future of computers on the gaming end. Up. I believe up. Up and forwards.
North.
Diagonally up, forwards. 45
West.
degrees between up and forwards.
There is a White House.
Maybe they get faster. Imagine that.
I'm just give me a minute. I'm sure I'll think of something.
Is he talking specifically about
Hardware, presumably.
hardware? Right.
I mean, I think they're probably the thing that will change the least. Like, no one's...
You might find
unless-
integrated CPUs and GPUs coming back again.
Yes, I think there'll be more and more incentives to have some kind of media center PC for your living room because, well, 3 reasons. One, you
can't think of one.
no, one, console, the new generation of consoles, frankly, look a bit bollocks. And a PC would be something you control and serve exactly the same purpose now. Like, the differences have become so narrow as to become meaningless. And 2, there's going to be a lot of, especially for hobbyists, cool VR shit to play with. And that's going to be the kind of thing you want a nice portable PC to use, especially if you decide to invest in a Virtuix Omni thing that allows you to run around like a brat in your living room, but does look kind of brilliant, as dumb as it looks. We may end up thinking of the PC in those terms as well, rather than a desk-bound thing to being something you have in your living room that runs all your virtual reality kit. That could be something that happens.
Good predictions.
I tried.
Yeah.
So the direction is running and hopping on the spot.
Direction is all directions because you with your Omni thingy.
Yeah.
You can run.
Thomas Busby asks, do you feel that MMOs have evolved well over the years? No. Lane Stagger, yes. Or de-evolved into some kind of monkey with a top hat?
Probably not the last one. Yeah, it's
I don't know. I think there's certain branches of the
Eve's
MMO
gonna
which
Eve.
has remained the same. But things like the MMO FPS has been has a resurgence fairly recently, and that wasn't really a successful model for many years.
But in a lot of ways, though, the industry is orbiting designs that didn't work in the past for technical reasons, right? Like, the ambition of that genre hasn't changed, and if anything, it's gotten less.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I think that's probably the success of PlanetSide and other things like that, and also helped by the fact that the technology now enables it. It will allow you to have games with lots and lots of people in them, whether they are MMOs as that genre term now suggests, because everybody, when you say MMO, you think of things in the WoW mold. But there are many games which involve massive multiplayer, but aren't considered MMOs. And I'm
Agreed. I mean, we had a discussion about this at the end of the podcast a few episodes ago, which I might be there, Marsh. If you're in for that one, maybe. Might link back to actually because we sort of went over this again because it's a multifaceted problem. It's a problem of terminology. It's a problem of development resources and return on that investment that has created the success of one particular type of game that now basically defines that terminology, which is a problem. And also the question of whose standards you're judging evolved well against. There are plenty of people who play and enjoy these games as they are, as divisive that they can be. A lot of people like MMOs and would argue that the evolution has been steady and solid and whatever. So,
yeah.
Yep.
I find there's sort of the opposite direction that my tastes are evolving in. I was never a huge MMO gamer in the first place. It was not really my sort of genre to leave exactly, but I used to like having a game that I could check in with and sort of play all evening, and that become my like sort of default game. World of Warcraft was for a while, and Eve was for a while, and City of Heroes was for a long time. But now I find I want to try more different things, and like you say, you can have something a bit shorter, or it doesn't have to be shorter, but something I can that doesn't demand my time in such huge amounts. Like, even something like Skyrim doesn't force you. It doesn't sort of say you can't have this experience unless you spent over 100 hours. It doesn't say like you're not going to get the good skill because you haven't. Or stuff like raids and stuff. Every time I criticize an MMO, I'm always told by the people who play it that no, you don't get to the good stuff till like 300 hours in, and so I can't really imagine myself ever really getting into one again.
Yeah. I agree, actually. for what it's worth, despite being the guy who will play the odd motor level cap every now and then. It's just a question of how consistently rewards you are for the time you spend doing it, frankly.
Yeah.
Craig Lee asks, for Tom Francis, are you going to repeatedly drive your new Ferrari past the PC Gamer offices during podcast time just to annoy everyone?
I think it's Tony who's always saying that I would take off in a helicopter made of gold.
Okay, so to correct him, will you be driving past in the gold helicopter?
I don't think so, but it will be kind of weird. Because, I mean, it kind of has been a bit weird. Like, the last 2 months, I've just been at home, but I'm really close to the PC Gamer offices, and, I go out on Friday night with you guys, and I'm sort of still, hopefully, part of the social circle.
Cast him out.
For now.
We'll still be a friend.
Okay.
just keep the helicopter flybys to, only when it's awesome. You don't want to overdo that and drain all the surprise from it. Craig McCormick asks, when will the rest of you slackers produce an awesome game in your spare time?
Oh my god.
For your information,
Gosh.
I'm not related to Rich. On the previous podcast, we did accuse him of being related to Rich McCormick.
What a slander.
I know. We're sorry, Craig. We are sorry.
Well, I'm helping making games.
Yeah, that's what you do now, Marsh.
I do, that's what I do. I've been drawing a meadow all day.
Really?
Yeah, turns out I'm shit at drawing meadows as
For
well,
what?
which is why it's taken for so long. Oh, first, You're Being Hunted. The board game, in fact, which is the Kickstarter award.
Nice. Yeah. So I've got no excuse. I do have an excuse, a lack of talent. That's my excuse.
Oh, don't do yourself down, man.
You had plans for one at one point, didn't you?
Yeah.
You don't say what it is on this. But.
I did have a plan. I actually have a very different plan for a game now, but it's stupidly... It's in that side of planning a game. It's the game I love to exist, not the game I think I could reasonably make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I could maybe sketch it out a bit, but it's not itself insurmountable. But I would need help, and I don't know where I'd find it. I'll explain it to you another time. It's how I would do a dance-off video game, which is possibly the most Chris Thurston idea I've ever had. The other game was, 2D puzzle platformer of all things. So, but that one probably won't happen either. But I've got plans and ideas as well for game-related things I'd like to do. So, he said, making a winky face at Martin.
All right. I can't do anything about those things.
We already are.
Oh, yeah. Are we? Are we?
Oh my god. Well, if we can't talk about it, there's no point in...
We actually can't talk about it yet, but like...
They're literally miming now.
Yeah.
This is podcast
It's
gold.
game-related. It's a game-related thing.
Oh, sorry. Right. Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah, okay. This is a shambles. Okay, Menthol Penguin asks, are the PC Gamer offices working with the Crosslink device yet?
No.
No, I was actually thinking though of using the Gunpoint level editor to try and make a little replication of the PC Gamer office. I don't know how possible that would be.
I don't know. I think the PC Gamer Office does a good job of trying to emulate that. Occasionally, you do put too many plugs in the plug socket, and all the lights go out.
Yeah. Actually, we have so many fucking double doors. I'm regularly being hit in the face. Like that
Door
happens.
bash.
Yeah, that happens. more
Actually,
often.
the bathrooms as well, because they open one way, and if you're coming in at the same time someone's going out, you get hit in the face.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, actually. Then I think finally, Dan Price asks, I'm getting married on Saturday. Congratulations.
well done.
Getting married very close to PC Gamer's Richard McCormick, actually. He's getting married in 2 Saturdays' time. Not getting married to Richard McCormick, though, which would make you related to Richard McCormick, which Craig McCormick isn't. Anyway, that's all unrelated. Can you give me any advice that you can tenuously link to PC gaming? Quick save often.
Don't play games to the exclusion of ever seeing your wife.
That's not tenuously related to
if
PC.
indeed you're marrying a woman.
Something dialogue options something.
Good on.
Look, I invited you on this podcast.
I'm sorry.
If I'd wanted you to phone it in, I would have called you.
Zing.
Very good. No, I can't think of any. Having not been married myself, I have no real good
I haven't
advice.
been married.
Yeah, none of us have.
Yeah, look,
Well.
it'll come in really handy for lots of things, like solving pressure plate puzzles and
You can always leave your wife on a pressure plate, then go through the door that's opened.
Yeah. Don't do that.
It wasn't
fire a
advice
gun
per
at
se,
your
more
wife,
like...
which switches your souls. That would.
That sounds,
Don't shoot your consciousness into your wife.
if that happens, don't make a movie out of it and watch it on a plane.
But you will find it more emotionally engaging.
Yes, you would,
So, yeah.
Never say to your wife, I've had emotions.
Man, we're like call back again at the end of this.
It's because we have no real answers to this.
I think quick save often was it. I think that's reasonable advice. If I could quick save often in real life, I totally would.
Yeah, it's advice you would follow if it was possible.
Yeah, although I would actually ruin the plan that anyone had for my life, whereas a shorter life that had more incentive to finish would possibly be more satisfying.
Good note to end on.
As would a show as a podcast. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening. I've been Chris Thurston. These have been
Don Francis.
Marsh Davies.
Bye.
Bye.